Yes, Namaste everyone, welcome everyone to Satsang and meditation. Today it is only on Facebook Live online, so a warm welcome to everyone who is joining, I would say joining us around the world, because we are creating a beautiful meditative Sangha, and you will feel when we go in, when we meditate together, that there is this invisible connection. You know, Lao Tzu calls it the Tao, and we will continue, of course, with the Tao Te Ching. It's such a wonderful pointer, how Lao Tzu has expressed the truth so clearly and beautifully many thousand years ago, 2,600 years ago. But it's not so much about the words or the concepts or the insights that the intellect can produce. It is whatever Lao Tzu has given us is a pointer that comes through him. And whoever is empty, whoever has recognized himself as consciousness, as formless, as the source, may understand where the pointers are pointing to. So for me, satsang is a wonderful excuse to remember. Because we are not always in a state of cosmic connection. You know, we are living in a world where the mind is needed, where you meet many other minds. We very seldom meet beings that are not so interested in their stories. We mainly meet people that are interested in the story of me, believing that's the true self. And of course, I also get sometimes caught in the story of the false me. And the beauty is when we remember, when we realize maybe in the middle of a dramatic event or a dramatic moment that this is something that comes, stays for a while, and leaves. And how can we say that? We can say that because there's something in us that doesn't come and go. It's not a thing, it's a space. It's the invisible, the unspeakable, the eternal. Many, many names. And yet, residing as that is just so relaxing. Especially in our time where around the whole world there is this anxiety around COVID, or the anxiety around vaccination, or the stories that we hear that are for or against anything. This mind cannot liberate us. What liberates is we turn within and more remember that which is aware of the mind. Is that difficult? No. Is that like a great firework that minds call enlightenment? No. There's no lights flashing. There's no big fireworks. There is perhaps rather a deep falling into the void, into the empty sky, into the empty heart. And the miracle, if we understand this a little bit, that what we are looking for as a solution also for the pandemic is a thought form that has manifested in reality outside. When we're looking for an end of the pandemic, the end is not an ending of a phenomenon. It is the ending of the one that identifies with the phenomenon. I don't know if that makes any sense. And then suddenly we are free. Suddenly there is just this moment and the space we all share in this moment. And it's wonderful. It is undramatic. It is right here, grounded in the body, and yet it has the capacity to manifest a completely new field of living. Not through the willful mind, but through resting as no mind, resting as that which is aware. And that is, I find it always fresh, always new. It's like a fresh well, a fresh fountain, a fresh spring. And I wish everyone to have a glimpse of their inner fresh spring that has nothing to do with knowledge, it has nothing to do with intellect, it has nothing to do with reasoning. All these are wonderful functions of the mind. But it has something to do with the creative energy of the universe that expresses itself through this body-mind. What a miracle. We see it everywhere. We see it every day. Now, while I'm talking, I realize there's still an invitation. If you have any questions or comments during the satsang, please feel free and write. And we have our friend here who will tell me what you're writing, and if there's a question, maybe I can address it. So please feel free, if you're joining me, to express whatever you need to express, or ask whatever you need to ask. So the Tao Te Ching, or the Tao, it's the same as Zen. It's the same as Chan. It's the same as Buddha nature. It's the same as Christ consciousness. It's the same as moksha. It's the same as all these names that we give the unnameable. And names are just important for the mind, so that, you know, if you have a friend and you want to talk to each other, and you talk to each other through the name, that's a very helpful and useful tool. The thing is, we forget that we are not the name. We're not born with the name. The name has been given, and whatever has been given will be taken away. That's the whole meaning when you meet a master and you ask for a new name and you let go of your old name. It's just a ritualistic step to surrender your, what I call the false identity. Surrender that which you have identified with for so long. And that's pretty much the first thing when our parents find a name for us and they talk to us with the name. That's what we hear all the time, and we cannot avoid thinking in another satsang, when you give up the name and allow the master to give you a new name, or even choose a new name yourself, and suddenly nobody knows you anymore. And suddenly everything that was attached to the name doesn't exist anymore. So it's kind of like a little death. And when we meditate, when we move within, then it's a little bigger death. It is a movement beyond identity. So shall we go on with Lao Tzu? I just want to read the last verse from last time. And it's amazing because Lao Tzu speaks about that right now. He says, when you have names and forms, know that they are provisional. When you have institutions, know where their function should end. Knowing when to stop, you can avoid any danger. So the moment we give it names and forms, it's a beautiful tool for communication, but it's not the truth. No? When we have institutions, and in the moment we have many institutions that take power over many, many people around the world, believing this institution represents the truth. Well, maybe not. When you have institutions, know where their function should end. I think we are in an interesting time where we give institutions, governments, politicians, police, military, at least here in Australia, but in many places around the world, an incredible, powerful function that reduces our human right of expression quite drastically. I know it may be suitable and helpful to conquer the virus, but the very idea of conquering the virus, I think, is not a good idea, because viruses have been all around all the time, since humanity, since people are there. So maybe we conquer the virus by moving behind the name virus. In the moment corona is a thing, nobody knows what corona is, and virus is even invisible, so it's coming very close to not knowing. And when we move deeper than that form, perhaps from that depth there's an intelligence arising that finds incredible inventive responses that have never been thought of before. So, knowing when to stop, you can avoid any danger. Hardly any of us knows when to stop. So, the anti-vaxxers are stronger and stronger. They don't know when to stop. The vaxxers, everyone, all the propaganda around vaccination, they don't know when to stop. So we are not avoiding danger. That's why so many people are afraid. And now he gives the solution. Instead of, knowing when to stop, he says, all things end in the Tao, as rivers flow into the sea. Everything that has gotten form moves back to the formless. Everything ends in that which we always have been. In Zen, the Zen master asks, tell me who you are before your parents made love and conceived you. It's a very beautiful question, because everything we identify with as a body-mind, as a human being, is not who we are before the parents made love. So, all things end in the Tao as rivers flows into the sea. So what does that mean? Rivers don't flow back and struggle up the mountain. They first maybe rush very fast, and then they flow slower when they come into the plains, and then eventually the river disappears on one level. On a real level, it ends as the Tao, as the unspeakable. I love Lao Tzu, it's just amazing. Are you with me there? Are you following, or am I just indulging in my joy of, of the Tao Te Ching? No? So here we go. Now he defines this a little bit closer. He says, knowing others is intelligence. So when we know others, basically what do we know? We know how their mind functions. Perhaps if we know a little bit more, we know how they are psychologically expressing themselves. And so we can answer on that level. So that's intelligent. But knowing yourself is wisdom. Why is knowing yourself wisdom? Because when you know yourself, you know everyone, because everyone is consciousness. When you know yourself as consciousness, of course, there's no separate self anymore. You see everything as consciousness. This is why the Buddha got asked, well, does a chair have Buddha nature? Of course. It's just asleep, but a chair is a manifestation of the infinite in the finite material world. Everything ends in the Tao. So one day, after maybe thousands of years, when all the elements of the chair dissolve, they fall back into the earth. They fall back into the Tao. And then he says something that is very, very important for the greed that runs the world and the greed that runs the big pharma industry and the greed that runs around high-profile, business people and politicians. If you realize that you have enough, you're truly rich. This is for those of you who maybe in the moment are struggling because you lost your job or you cannot pay your rent and the outer world looks very threatening because you lost a lot of security. Well, if you realize that you have enough at any given moment, you're truly rich. And the strange thing is, when you feel truly rich, things and even material stuff comes your way without you having to struggle. I speak from experience because, for many, many years, I had very little money, but I felt incredibly rich. There's a longer story. If you want to read my book, there's a lot of stories in my book. You can download it from my website, Avalanches and Awakening. So if you realize that you have enough, so please realize that, of course, you are here. That means you are wanted and you have enough. We don't know about next moment, but in this moment, it is enough. Then you are truly rich. And then he says, if you stay in the center and embrace death with your whole heart, you will endure forever. What does that mean? There's so much fear around death. What is it that can actually die? What can die in you? Only the identifications that we have built up during this lifetime, called ego, if you like. Only that can die. When that has come, and that will go. So when you embrace death, which means letting go, with your whole heart, you will endure forever. because that which is aware in you is timeless. I'm not trying to give you a new belief. Please don't believe it. Discover it. If we embrace death with our whole heart, we will endure forever. Now, the danger is when we hear this, then we look for eternal life, then we try to survive as much as possible. Lao Tzu here invites us to die, and in a moment when we meditate together, that is in a way like a small death. We're going in and in and in and deeper than all sensory experiences, deeper than all stories, deeper than all identifications. And what is deeper than all experiences? There is no I. That's the death he talks about. And then to make it clearer, Lao Tzu continues, the great Tao flows everywhere. Can we let that sink in for a moment? The great Tao flows everywhere. We call it great because it looks empty, we cannot really grasp it, and yet it's everywhere. All things are born from it. So it's the creative force of the universe that I talked about before. All things are born from it. Yet it does not create them. So there's no separation, there's no one creative force that creates something outside of itself. It is like born out of no thing. The physicists call it the Big Bang. It pours itself into its work, yet it makes no claim. So whether we are aware of it or not, anything we do, any action, any movement of thought, movement of the physical body, movement of creative energy, building something, moving of intellectual energy, creating the great theories. It pours itself in its work. So the Tao is intrinsic in everything, yet it doesn't make any claim because it doesn't have a separate I, a separate ego that claims, look at me, I did this. Look at me, I did this. No? This is where Christianity has a big limitation. God created the world, so our mind makes a creator that does something that is separate from himself. And on the seventh day, he rests, which means, so doing and non-doing is actually coming from God, and the big misunderstanding is that God is the Tao. God is that creative energy from where everything arises, but unfortunately, God shouldn't make a claim that on the seventh day he looks and he sees that everything was okay, was good. That's a big claim. That means he did it. And this is why, many people doubt. Because if you believe something, underneath there is a doubt. If you know yourself as the Tao, no more doubt. So the Tao nourishes infinite worlds, yet it does not hold on to them. It's a beautiful other way to express that the Tao is creative energy, and whatever arises is not a thing that can add to a sense of self, to an ego, so it doesn't hold on to them. Since the Tao is merged with all things and hidden in their hearts, it can be called humble. Wow. Since the Tao is merged with all things and hidden in their hearts, which means in the hearts of all things, it can be called humble. Now, humility is kind of a beautiful ideal, especially a beautiful spiritual ideal. But true humbleness is something that is not connected to a sense of self. It is simply an expression. It's hidden in the heart of things. Since all things vanish into it, and it alone endures, it can be called great. So, all things, everything that appears as form disappears again. Everything that comes goes. Since all things vanish into the Tao and it alone endures, which means the infinite alone endures, it can be called great. Well, who would call it great? There must be a separate caller that calls it great. It is just in our human limited perception that instead of calling it great, I would say we are in wonder. This morning I was in wonder because we bought a few flowers and put them in the pots, and this morning there was this incredible red rose opening with an incredible beautiful fragrance and a depth of red that is incredible. And of course the mind is kind of then labeling beauty, but the wonder out of nothing, a flower blooms. Of course we call it great or beautiful or amazing, forgetting that it arises from the same infinite source as this body, mind, and everything in expression arises. The Tao is not aware of its greatness, thus it is truly great. Sometimes we meet people that are just unbelievably beautiful and great, and the biggest beauty is that they are not aware how great they are. Please be one of them. The Tao is not aware of its greatness, thus it is truly great. She who is centered in the Tao can go where she wishes without danger. So when we are this is important, especially in our time now. When we externalize our center and give our power away and blame the environment or blame COVID or blame any situation for how we feel, we are not centered, we are ex-centered, we are eccentric. No? So, coming back to the center or being centered in the Tao means we are centered in nothingness. Let that drown you for a moment, drown you in nothingness. She who is centered in the Tao can go where she wishes without danger. That's the end of fear. Why? Because fear is usually the fear of physical, emotional, intellectual danger and death. If we go somewhere unknown, the body-mind is afraid that, something terrible may happen. But when we are centered in the Tao, to the Tao itself, nothing ever happens. she perceives the universal harmony even amid great pain. This is a very challenging one. Can we perceive the universal harmony even amid great pain? There is so much painful stuff happening around the world. So many people losing their job, not knowing how to pay their bill, getting sick, dying, people dying and cannot be visited by their relatives. Then there's, in the moment, Afghanistan, which is absolutely horrible. So can we, this is a challenge and not a new ideal. This is just a reflection of where we are. Can we stay present to the infinite even when there's great pain? So she, the Tao, perceives the universal harmony even amid great pain because she has found peace in her heart. Isn't that what we're all seeking? And in meditation, some of us may discover that peace is not something that we can achieve. Peace is our deepest nature, or the Tao, unveiled behind all identifications, behind all layers of the mind. That's where peace is. And we call the heart, the peace in the heart, which means the empty heart, not the emotional heart. The empty heart from where the true source of love arises. And now he explains a little bit the difference between that and the senses. He says, music or the smell of good cooking may make people stop and enjoy. But words that point to the Tao seem monotonous and without flavor. So you have to forgive me. I know many people fall asleep when they hear me talking. Because it's not the smell of good cooking, and it maybe not make you stop and enjoy, because words that point to the Tao seems monotonous and without flavor. When you look for it, there is nothing to see. When you listen for it, there is nothing to hear. When you use it, it is inexhaustible. Are you following that? That's so incredible. I love the way he says it. No? When you look for the exciting thing to see, but you look for the Tao, and you actually find the Tao, there's nothing in the Tao, there is no thing, it is beyond all form. When you listen for it, there's nothing to hear. It is the deepest silence behind all sounds. And yet when you use it, it's inexhaustible. For those of you who are listening who are musicians, you will recognize this. And there's many moments where music happens through you. You are not the doer, and you can be absolutely going forever, the whole night through, jamming and making beautiful music, and suddenly it's morning and you don't know where the time went, because it was the Tao, or the infinite, playing through you. And then time disappears, becoming disappears, identification disappears, and the Tao, the infinite God, the divinity, expresses itself. Inexhaustible. I have a very, very strong memory that I want to share with you. Some of you, or most of you maybe who are listening, you have heard of Osho, and you have heard of the time where we were creating a beautiful place, a beautiful commune in America, where we transformed the desert into an incredible, beautiful, abundant garden. And there was so much creativity. And I was participating in 3 months counseling training. So here was the schedule. Take a deep breath. I was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to reach the Buddha Hall at 6 o'clock. I needed to walk down a valley and then catch a bus to Buddha Hall for dynamic meditation. And if you know dynamic meditation, it's a very active, arduous breathing and movement meditation. After dynamic meditation, we went for breakfast, and then everyone, all the students also, went to the truck farm to pick tomatoes or to plow the soil or something, a few hours. And then we went to the multiversity, to the meditation university, and were learning about counseling. And then in the afternoon, after work, we would sing and dance along the road when Osho was passing with his car, and we were totally ecstatic. Then we had dinner. Actually, no, after that drive-by, we went back to the truck farm, back on the farm. Then we had dinner, and then we went to the disco. So, and there was a lot of beautiful, companionship and joy and love and relationship stuff happening. So I personally never went to bed earlier than 1 o'clock, and 5 o'clock getting up. And we were working non-stop, and most of us were just high like a kite. I had never ever so much energy as these 3 months on the ranch, because we were all on the same wave. It was like a huge wave of creation, of joy, of meditation, of love, of truth, of revealing the deepest potential in everyone. And it was undescribable how much energy is stored in us that is not used because our mind puts a lid on it. So Lao Tzu knew this. When you use the Tao, it is inexhaustible. When you don't do it for yourself, when you don't create a stronger ego out of what you're doing, when the creation comes out of joy. No? So Lao Tzu continues, if you want to shrink something, you must first allow it to expand. If you want to get rid of something, you must first allow it to flourish. If you want to take something, you must first allow it to be given. This is called the subtle perception of the way things are. This verse is kind of the essence of the counseling training, the essence of psychological healing. No? You all know the saying, whatever you resist persists. So if you want to shrink something, if you want to get less afraid, in many sessions I will help the participant to actually get more afraid, and suddenly in the maximum of fear, the fear is gone. I think some of you have experienced this. No? If you want to get rid of something, you must first allow it to flourish. I always was against anger, because my father was angry, and I thought I never want to be angry. And then I was in for a huge surprise when I came to Pune, and one of the therapists made me aware how angry I am, and I didn't feel it. And then I started to kind of get a plastic pipe and a bunch of mattresses, and was encouraged to express anger. And first I didn't find it, and then it came. Because I was so much repressed and so much against it, it needed a little bit, and then, boy, I worked with my anger for months and months and months, and then it naturally subsided and something deeper came. So, if you want to get rid of something, you must first allow it to flourish. So anger needs to flourish. Sex needs to flourish. There's so much fear around sex. No? If you want to take something, you must first allow it to be given. That is the whole science of manifestation. No? If you come from a lack, if you want to take something, you're coming from a lack. You feel, something is missing and you want to fill it. But if you actually give what you actually crave, usually it's, there's this beautiful saying, whatever you want somebody to do, you do it. Byron Katie's work is very much based on this. Then you are whole, and the Tao has time and space to express itself. So he calls it, this is called the subtle perception of the way things are. The soft overcomes the hard. The slow overcomes the fast. Let your workings remain a mystery. Just show people the results. In other words, don't brag about how great you are and what you can achieve. Just show people. And when people feel at ease around you, when people feel at peace around you, when people naturally let go of their armor, then something maybe has happened with you. This is how you know that you're not just following a spiritual ideal, but that you emanate more presence, you emanate more the mystery of the Tao. No? Let your workings remain a mystery. Just show people the results. So don't explain them how you reach there, because it is not... reaching somewhere is something from the mind, and actually transformation is not part of the mind. So he says the Tao never does anything, yet through it all things are done. Another way of pointing towards the creative force of the universe. And now he kind of tries to make it practical for the friends who are somehow in power positions. If powerful men and women could center themselves in the Tao, the whole world would be transformed by itself in its natural rhythms. Isn't that a wonderful dream? Shall we dream for a moment? If powerful men and women, we are all powerful men and women, if we could center ourselves in the Tao, the world would be transformed by itself in its natural rhythms. People would be content with their simple everyday lives in harmony and free of desire. Because the Tao, what is already fulfilled in itself. And as we relax into the Tao, it doesn't mean we become lazy, it doesn't mean we don't do anything anymore. We are just not seeking gratification through our actions. We enjoy the expression of them. When there is no desire, all things are at peace. That's an amazing insight, and it's so much misunderstood. A lot of Hindu teachings, Buddhist teachings teach you to be desireless. And then you desire desirelessness, and that doesn't work. When you see desire and you turn your attention to the seeing, and then you turn your attention to the inner experience in your psychological body, that desire is actually coming from a lack. And if you then enter the lack and allow the lack, that black hole that many of us carry everywhere because never anything is enough, if you dare to enter that and die into it, it disappears because it's an absence. So when there is no desire, all things are at peace, is not a new ideal to fight desire. It is the understanding, the discovery, the holding of desire as a holding of what we perceive as an inner lack, until we come to a place at the center where there has never ever been a lack. I think it's enough. I think we should sit with that a little bit.
Comments, Rahasya?
A few comments? Okay, shall we take the comments first?
A couple quickies.
Yeah.
Leslie Franklin. She says, funny, I read the very page tonight before I slept.
Leslie, you read the very page tonight before you slept. Well, you are in tune. The Tao is everywhere. It expresses itself through you.
Many people sending love and hellos. And Manesh Dimore.
Manish.
Manish says, thank you for sharing about the ranch.
Yeah. Hey, Manish. Lovely to hear from you. Are you still in Bali or back in Holland making your beautiful music? So I have still this beautiful candle here surrounded by expressions of the Tao in the form of wonderful flowers and wonderfully smelling jasmine. So I want to dedicate the light of the candle today to all these souls that are in pain, that are suffering, that are struggling, that struggle may take them to a place of deep silence, of deep peace in the heart, and that they may discover this incredible possibility that in a human lifetime we can uncover the truth of our being, the Tao, the bliss, the joy, the silence, the peace, the healing, and that maybe our own transformation will support a wave of transformation, a wave of consciousness that washes over all this human suffering, heralding a new dawn. So that were many words. Now let all the words, let everything that has touched you a little bit or that has touched you deeply, let it resonate, let it take you to this unknown space within you. And whenever you have a choice, whenever maybe thoughts are strong or feelings are strong, don't fight them. Invite them into that which is already aware And whenever you the choice where your attention goes, if your attention goes to the mind, recognize it and let it go to that which is aware of the mind. And everything changes. We're going to sit for about 20 minutes, so please enjoy. keep falling in, endless. Dissolve into the Tao like the river dissolves into the ocean. Feel the peace that is already here. It's not created. It's not manufactured. It is who we are. Heart is peace. As you're sitting, as we share the same infinity, we are so wonderfully connected. Connected in the Tao, connected in nothingness. And in a moment when we come back and become aware of the body again and become aware of the senses, just be really curious how all these manifestations appear from the mystery of the Tao, of nothingness. So from this depth inside, you can take a deeper breath. Feeling your body again, maybe stretching a little bit. Allowing the senses to awaken again, and yet stay present to the infinite until you find a good moment to open your eyes to a new moment here. Very good. Now, if you're with us online through Facebook Live, if there's anything you would like to comment or share or ask, this is a good moment. You can write your comment or question, and it will be shared here.
When we meditate deeply and merge into the Tao, merge into our consciousness, where do we go?
The question is, when we meditate deeply, when we merge in consciousness, where do we go? Don't look for an answer. You will not find one. And yet we go nowhere. That's the mystery. Living the mystery, living the Tao, will never be able to be explained through the senses or through a location or through, through time. That's the beauty. I think somebody wrote something a little bit bigger.
Leslie Franklin.
Yeah.
I was trying to get back to sleep during the meditation as it's 3 a.m. here and heard noises on my deck and found a bear and 2 cubs. The Tao.
Leslie, you found a bear and 2 cubs on your deck. That's amazing. The Tao manifests in the most wondrous ways. These are the synchronicities that happen all the time. We just overlook them because we are so busy with our mind. How wonderful. Bears, maybe the bear mother and her cubs wanted to join the meditation because they feel so one. It's quite amazing how animals respond to presence. Franz von Assisi was a good example. No? He was so empty that the birds were sitting on him. Not because he was so full of love, just because he was empty. There was no separate sense of self, so then the birds can use the body like a tree, just sitting. The bear can use your veranda, because they like the space. Well, if there's no more question, then I just want to send you many, many, many blessings from here, from Australia, all around the world. And please remember, whenever you have time, even if it's just a few seconds in the middle of a busy life, to just stop. To just stop for a few seconds and realize what is already here, behind all the activity, behind all the mind stories. Realize what is here. And here all fear disappears, all anxiety disappears, all mental noise disappears, and you have the right to be undisturbed in your being, as your being. So thank you so much for sharing your presence, even though we don't know who you are and where you are and where you come from and where we are going, but we are connected to this wonderful field. So be blessed, be healthy, be love, be peace. Namaste. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.